Hi, welcome to my channel, Garland of Books. This is a reading update for May and June, maybe the tiniest last bit of April. I'm trying to remember. I haven't done one in a while. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so first of all, one of the books that I finished that I talked about in a previous video was Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier. So that one was, yeah, very, very good. A very sad and tough read, but it was very informative and I would definitely recommend it. Had a lot of good information. It was very good. Okay, and then here's a couple other ones that I think they were the furthest back ones that I read along with that one. This is C.S. Lewis, Till We Have Faces, and I also read C.S. Lewis, The Abolition of Man. Both of these were excellent. This one I went along with Literary Life podcast, and just, yeah, it was so much better than the first time I read it, and I feel like I understood it more, even though it's not exact what you understand about it, I guess. It's very interesting. It was really cool to think through it and think about how, really these had a lot of things that were crossing over for me. This book had a lot to do with disordered love and how, so the main character, when her sister wouldn't do everything she wanted, when she wouldn't, love her and treat her the way that she wanted to be loved, then she hated her so much that she wanted her to die. Here's a little tidbit from it. Okay, so here is a crucial part where there's the two sisters. There's Psyche from the old legend of Cupid and Psyche, and then Psyche's sister is the main character, and in this one she's called Orual. And so they've come to the pivotal moment where Orual just wants her to come home and return to their old relationship, return to Psyche obeying her. Psyche was younger than her, so Orual kind of raised her like a child in a way. Her mother had died in childbirth. Okay, here's the part where Orual's sister Psyche was sacrificed to the beast, who was sometimes called the prince, like the son of the goddess, and sometimes he was called the beast to devour. So it was kind of a mixed up superstitious tale. But this book is so interesting because it shows that neither superstition nor pure reason and thinking are the only way. We're not pure mind and we're not pure heart either. There's a proper order to things. So here she's come and found her sister after she's been sacrificed, and she's not dead, but she's up there, and she looks like she's like living in rags, but she's happy, and she wants to take her back home. And she says, "Get up, girl," I said. "Do you hear me? Do as you're told. Psyche, you never disobeyed me before." She looked up, wetter every moment, and said, let's see. "Psyche," I said, and my voice had changed. "This is sheer raving. You can't stay here. Winter will be on us soon. It'll kill you." "I cannot leave my home, Maya." "Home? There's no home here. Get up, here, under my cloak." She shook her head a little wearily. "It's no use, Maya," she said. "I see it and you don't. Who's to judge between us?" "I'll call Bardia." I'm not allowed to let him in, and he wouldn't come. That I knew was true. "Get up, girl," I said. "Do you hear me? Do as you're told. Psyche, you never disobeyed me before." She looked up, wetter every moment, and said, very tender in voice, but hard as a stone in her determination, "Dear Maya, I am a wife now. It's no longer you that I must obey." I learned then how one can hate those one loves. My fingers were round her wrist in an instant, my other hand on her upper shoulder, on her upper arm. We were struggling. "You shall come," I panted. We'll force you away, hide you somewhere." So when she wouldn't do what she wanted to force her. There was a great and beautiful castle that only Psyche could see, and Orual did not and could not and wouldn't see it, and did not want to see it. Here she wants her to light a candle and look and see what her husband looks like, because that's part of the story, is she only is with him in the dark because he's a god or a demigod or whatever, and she can't see him. And Psyche doesn't want to because she knows he's good, and Orual makes her, and she's so desperate. So Orual blackmails her. She cuts her arm. Orual cuts her own arm, and Psyche, Maya said, "Psyche, what did you do that for? To show you I'm an earnest girl. Listen, you have driven me to desperate courses. I give you your choice. Swear on this edge with my blood still wet on it that you will this very night do as I have commanded you, or else I'll first kill you and then myself." "Orual," said she, very queen-like, raising her head, "you might have spared that threat of killing me. All your power over me lies in the other." "Then swear, girl. You never knew me break my word." The look in her face now was one I did not understand. I think a man who loved, might look so on a woman who had been false to him. And at last she said, "You are indeed teaching me about kinds of love I did not know. It is like looking into a deep pit. I am not sure whether I like your kind better than hatred. Oh, Orual, to take my love for you, because you know it goes down to my very roots and cannot be diminished by any other newer love, and then to make of it a tool, a weapon, a thing of policy and mastery, an instrument of torture. I begin to think I never knew you. Whatever comes after, something that was between us, dies here." "Enough of your subtleties," said I. "Both of us die here in plainest truth and blood, unless you swear." "If I do," she said hotly, "it will not be for any doubt of my husband or his love. It will only be because I think better of him than of you. He cannot be cruel like you. I'll not believe it. He will know how I was tortured into my disobedience. He will forgive me." So, anyways, it was a fascinating book. I really enjoyed that. Okay, and then for Abolition of Man, I had some quotes that I wanted to share. So, here's my commonplace book. Okay, let's see. "They're dealing with a boy who thinks he is doing his English prep and has no notion that ethics, theology, and politics are all at stake. It is not a theory they put into his mind, but an assumption, which 10 years hence, its origin forgotten and its pretense unconscious, will condition him to take one side in a controversy which he has never recognized as a controversy at all. The authors themselves, I suspect, hardly know what they are doing to the boy, and I cannot know what is being done to him, and he cannot know what is being done to him. Have cut out of his soul, long before he is old enough to choose, the possibility of having certain experiences which thinkers of more authority than they have held to be generous, fruitful, and humane." So, anyways, the Abolition of Man, it had so much relevance to like our current situation. You know, he wrote it probably 70 years ago, but it's so good. Okay, let's do another one. "The right defense against false statements is to inculcate just sentiments. By starving the sensibility of our pupils, we only make them easier prey to the propagandist when he comes. For famished nature will be avenged, and a hard heart is no infallible protection against a soft head. In a sort of ghastly simplicity, we remove the organ and demand the function. We make men without chests, and expect of them virtue and enterprise. We laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst. We castrate and bid the geldings be fruitful." Those are just some that I wrote down. That whole book was so quotable, so I should write down many more quotes. But it's very, very good. Okay, some of the other books we read. All right, here's my 2 copies of The Hobbit. We read this with my son, who is 6. So we have this one illustrated by Alan Lee, and I was reading from this one, and then my husband was reading from this other copy we have, Jemima Catlin. It's just kind of fun to have 2 different copies. Show the back of this one too. I definitely preferred the Alan Lee pictures, but I would say this one had some more often pictures, so it was kind of fun too. Let me see if there's a fun one. Okay, let's see. Here's a fun one where Gandalf is throwing fireballs down from the tree, and there's a wolf getting hit with one. So yeah, it was fun. I would not say that I liked these pictures so much. I'm kind of picky about artwork, so that was always a great book. My 6-year-old loved it, so I don't think that 6 is too young to read it. Probably he didn't get every single detail about it, but he loved it. I think he would go and narrate it to my 4-year-old, and so they would be talking about it, and they're playing Gandalf and Bilbo and the Arkenstone, and it was just really fun. So, okay, here's another book that I read. This is Fingal's Quest by Madeline Poland. This is put out by Hillside Education. So this was one about, the mid-500s AD. So it started in Ireland, and then they went to France. And so this is a little boy who, I think he's 13 at the beginning, and he's kind of between classes. So he's grown up without much friends. He's been a little isolated because I think his father was more noble, but his father died when he was young. And I don't think he really got to know his father, so he couldn't really take his place among the, maybe more noble people, but he also couldn't take his place with the common people. So he just kind of grew up in isolation, and then to some degree, and then he went to the monastery to learn, and I guess to become a priest or something. It's kind of confusing because some of them became priests, but some of them were just going there for learning because that was the place to learn things. Anyways, he has this, the one priest that he's put under his tutelage right when he gets there, he just loves him so much. He's so enamored of him, and I think it's really him longing for a father role model relationship since he hasn't had a father in his life. So he starts off in Ireland, and then there's some people who come from France or Gaul, and it has been, basically they're coming and saying, please come and bring the church to France because we've lost so much from there's the Franks and the Gauls and an invasion. And so some people are still, they still sort of remember Christianity, but they're wanting them to come and teach them again. So anyways, Fingal is supposed to stay at the monastery in Ireland, but he follows anyways, and he has all these adventures as he's going through France and meeting people, and so it's very interesting and fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was good. This is probably a middle grade book, but I was just reading it so I know what it's like. Okay, and then here is Happy Little Family. This is a Fairchild Family Story by Rebecca Cottle. This was a fun one. I got this one for my 4-year-old for his birthday, and so I read it with my 4 and 6-year-old, and they really loved it. So the main character is Bonnie, and she's 4, and she just turned 4 at the beginning of it, and this was it was really fun, and he really liked it. So it's really cool seeing my 4-year-old being able to pay more attention and follow a little bit longer of a story. And it has a lot of pictures in it. So it's not a colorful picture book, but it does have almost on every page at least some little picture. So, yep, that's a good one. And there's 4 books, so we've started the 2nd book now. All right, here is Rascal by Sterling North. This is a memoir from when he was, I think, 11 to 12, and it was 1918. So this is a true story, and I thought it was mostly a good book. There was a little bit in there that was him remembering his mother before she died, and she was, here's a little clip of it. Let's see. She had tried to explain the story of creation in the Bible as a means by which a primitive and poetic people sought to record the beginning of things. Anyways, there's just maybe a couple pages where it's got a certain sort of opinion that his mother had that could be good for conversations or good for editing out if your kids are too young for it. But other than that, it's just a fun story of this boy and all of his animal friends, and mainly Rascal is the raccoon, so he has other animals, but it's about this raccoon, and then also kind of what his family, it's him and his dad alone at home. All of his other siblings have either gone off out into the world. One of his brothers is in the war, and so the story kind of ends when he's awaiting news, that the war is over, and his brother's coming back home from the war. So it's an interesting story, and it's so funny to think of 100 years ago, all these animals in the house and how his father let him do that. It was a very fun, boyish story. So yeah, that was good. Okay, here was Miracles on Maple Hill by Virginia Sorensen. This one was so fun. This kind of followed one calendar year. I think she came in March during is it called the sugaring? When the maples, there's like a snow and then it's thawing. It's the time when the maple trees, all the sap is dripping, and they collect it all and boil and boil it perfectly before it burns, and take it off and make maple syrup, or have maple syrup. And so they come from a city, and they come out into the country and live there and just learn a lot. I think Miracles, that's kind of relating to all of the just different things in nature that she gets to enjoy. It's a family, a mother and a father. The father came home from a war, and he kind of has PTSD, or he's just kind of depressed and not his old self, kind of. And then a sister and a brother. She's maybe 10, the brother might be 12 or 13. And yeah, just them coming together as a family and seeing just some like calm and peaceful country life, and working with your own hands outside in the sunshine and the fresh air. And it was a really sweet story, so I enjoyed that. This is also probably a middle grade book, although I really think it could be read aloud, even 6, 7, 8. It probably could be. Okay, here was An Unexpected Delight, The Wednesday Wars by Gary Schmidt. So this is a coming of age story, I would say. He is 13 in this, and it is, what would you think from that picture? You got somebody at a desk being scared by a rat. There's another rat down there. This book was so funny, the best coming of age story I've had. It follows the calendar year also, kind of the school calendar year, and the boy kind of imagines that his teacher is wanting to torture him every Wednesday, so he's 13 and he is Presbyterian, I think, or Protestant, and everyone else in the class is either Jewish or Catholic. So they're all 13, every other kid gets off early on Wednesdays for special school. So I guess the Jews are preparing for their, oh my goodness, I just lost the word. They're preparing for their bar mitzvahs, and the Catholics are preparing for their confirmations. That's what I assume. So they have a special religious class. He's in 7th grade, and so his teacher kind of begrudges him the fact that she has to stay there, for an extra 2 hours just for this one student. So it's almost like she's, he kind of imagines that she's creating all these tortures for him. And it does seem like that. But it's a very cool story. There's so many adventures, and there's like Shakespeare mixed into it. So that is a really fun extra element that you would not expect. And it was great. So excellent. I'd be interested to see what else he's written. And I think I saw Chantel talk about it recently. There's a companion book to this, so I might look into that. I don't know if anything could top this though, so I'm not sure. Okay. Here is another book, The Hidden Hand by Eden Southworth. This is from Lamplighter. This is like so pretty. I love that. There's like all the leaves on the side, the golden leaves. This was a great book. This is one of their fatter ones. And I had also listened to the audio dramatization before I read this book, and it's different than the book. So it's both of them are really good. I thought this was a very complex story with multiple characters and a lot going on, and it was very fun. So the main character is Capitola, and she is a scamp. She is, always looking for adventure and getting into trouble, I guess. And there is, a lot of mystery, and there's good people trying to do well with their lives, and then there's like conniving villains, and it is very good. So I would highly recommend this one. Okay, and then this one I finally finished. I was close to the end for a long time, and then I hadn't picked it up for a while. So this is 10 Ways to Destroy the Imagination of Your Child by Anthony Eslin. So this was great. I think I had like 30 pages left. I just hadn't finished it. I kind of savored this and read it over the last probably year and a half. But every few pages, it was just so much to take in. It was so good. I was just thinking about it. It's kind of written tongue in cheek, and just thinking about ways to help our children. What kinds of obstacles do we put into their way, and what ways could we make it easier for them to have a real childhood and not be burdened down by all the really like just political correctness and in every sense of the word, like overbearing and letting them create and imagine and not stomping on that. So it was very good. Okay, here's another one, The White Company by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This was illustrated by N.C. Wyeth, so that was fun. Yeah, this was an interesting book. This one, which two books was it? Okay, let me see. This one was set in 1366. England is at war with Spain, so it happens in England, and then they go through France, which, you know, that's the unfortunate geography of France. People are always walking through France and on their way to somewhere else, it seemed like, and then in Spain for the last bit of it. It made me want to, get better at my French, because there were little French phrases and sentences, snippets throughout, and some of them I could catch a little bit, but that was just kind of like an extra thing. I was like, oh, I want to read this again once I get better at my French. But yeah, it follows this boy, I guess he's a man. I think he just turned 20, and he had, when his father died, he left the boy to the monastery, and so he grew up in the monastery, and he like learned how to read, and he learned how to do like lots of their crafts, but his father had like given them a portion of the inheritance in order to raise the boy. But then part of the stipulation was that when he was 20, he must have 1 year outside the monastery to see what the real world was like. And so he's like, what am I gonna do now? And so he spends this 1 year, and he joins, it's called the White Company. I guess that's their banner. Let's see. I don't know. There they are, all with their, seems like they have the red line there. But I guess the White Company, I think it refers to their standard that they're following behind. And so he gets into company with these archers, and so he does not become an archer, I don't think, but he does learn some sword fighting, and he is a, I don't know, like an advisor or kind of more administration type person for the Lord, because he can read and write, which is a very rare skill. And I almost get the idea that the Lord can't read, but maybe his eyesight isn't very good anymore. But he follows him, and that Lord is hilarious, and he's always talking about, the glory of this or that, and he seems like a very fun guy. And then there's a little bit of a love story in it, and there's lots of interesting situations and old, castle type imagery. So I liked it. It was very good. Okay, and then here's one here. This is The King of Golden River by John Ruskin. And so this is like a short story written for children, I would say. But it was a fun and cool story. And I've been very interested in John Ruskin because I think he was a top-level art critic that Charlotte Mason read some of his works, and it's very hard to find his like art criticism or writings about art. But I would be very interested in that. But yeah, this is a fun one. Has different illustrations in it. There's 3 brothers, and 2 of them are very naughty, and then one of them is very kind. And yep, it's a good story. My son loved it. Okay, and then I've got a few that I don't have the cover for. Let's see, I read The Green Ember by S.D. Smith. So I audiobooked that one, and it was really good. There was one part where there was a song, and the reader sang it, and it was so beautiful. Yeah, this one, it's like there's like bunnies, and I would say it's middle grade. So they're like, yeah, probably the bunnies are supposed to be 10 and 8 or something. And they're finding out about their family and finding out their heritage and why their family's kind of kept separate from a lot of the bunny colony, and what happened in the past with the fall of one kingdom and how they're trying to rebuild. And it's a very interesting book. So I like that. There's 4 of them. So we might try to read those later. I thought it was good, and I thought it'd be interesting to read more of them, but I might wait until we can do it as a read aloud or something when my kids get a little older. Okay, and then another one we read was Twig by Elizabeth Orton Jones. This was a really fun one. This is put out by Purple House Press, now reprinted by them. And it's just a very imaginative story about a girl who lives in an apartment building. She's like on the top floor, the 4th floor, and she can go down into the, communal yard, but it's really just, it's all dirt except there's one dandelion growing and there's one little trickle of water from the drain pipe, and there's a nest on the drain pipe, and it's kind of her imaginations, even with the little bit of nature that she has, and it's really cool and really funny. There were definitely, at first I wasn't getting into it as much, but there were definitely times that my 6-year-old was just giggling and giggling, and by the end I thought it was very endearing and sweet. Okay, and then another book I read was Teaching from Rest by Sarah Mackenzie. And that one was, honestly, it was just all right. I've heard that one recommended by homeschool moms, but I don't know, maybe it's one of those things where I've read it other places and other people said it better and I enjoyed it better, so it's not one I'm going to read again. I just didn't care for it that much. So it was okay. It was nothing, nothing special. So yeah, all right, well, that's my recent reading. So thank you, and like if you liked it. See you next time. Bye.